So in this video, I want to do something a little bit different. This is going to be a little bit more free-flowing, a little bit more conversational, but ultimately it's going to be leaning into kind of my philosophy around builds, around getting started, and hopefully offering you guys some starter builds for when you're stepping into New World or when you're returning after a long break. Now, it's the goal of all of my videos to always encourage you, if you're having fun, you're doing it right. So don't let anything in this video dissuade you from having fun. Ultimately, that's the goal of video games, and that is what I believe in thoroughly. But I continue to be asked, especially by players who maybe feel like they're just getting beat up or they're struggling with their survivability, and so I want to kind of put together what I did as I leveled through the game, and hopefully helps give you guys some information. Ultimately, if you're new to the game or it's been a while, you should be walking out of this video with a better understanding of the equipment system, of a couple weapon options for you to play around with, but I would encourage you to obviously try every weapon in this game. So hello everyone, and welcome if you're new around here, and if you've been with me this whole time, welcome back. My name's Brian, for those of you who just want to know, and we're going to have some fun in today's video. It's going to be more informational, so that's going to be ultimately the goal of the channel. I really like sharing this passion that I have for New World. So for all those who've been joining me on Friday nights for our streams, as we play together, as we adventure into this world and try to tackle its challenges, I really appreciate the opportunity to really dive into this game with each and every one of you. But first and foremost, I'm going to open up with a sword and shield and life staff build. This is probably pretty basic, some 101 stuff here. And while I haven't allocated my stats specifically for this video to kind of walk you through the logic, you can see here right now I am rocking in a light equipment load and I don't have a shield. And so I want to correct that immediately. Why is this build important to me? Why do I enjoy the layout and the setup of this one? Well, first and foremost is it gives me a lot of survivability. Now, my gear is set up for myself as a healer. That's one of the things that I've actually been working on as I jump into the trade skills for some random reason. As I jump into Life Staff and Void Gauntlet, I'm really leaning into that. But when you start to think about how RPGs actually have a scalability of difficulty, usually that comes in the form of casters versus that sword and shield and that melee. Now, I really have been enjoying the Great Axe and Warhammer. Honestly, I really like how all the different weapons played. I've fallen in love with the blunderbuss, and I would highly encourage you to check it out. But in terms of difficulty scaling, I want you to think in terms of ranged and melee. And being that New World offers the opportunity to actually have two different weapons, Life Staff in this case and Sword and Shield, it gives you the ability to have a lot of flexibility in terms of your build, a lot of variability, a lot of power, and a lot of survivability. Now, my gear set right now is rated at a medium, and you kind of get this little hop jump. You can see how that kind of plays out. And dodging is going to be important because dodging allows you to avoid damage. And the game has a very action combat heavy system. So note that's going to be how that ultimately plays out. But here's what I'm thinking, and here's how I kind of focus in on it. First and foremost, right now my gear has already pushed me into medium. That's heavily due to the shield. As a caster, I don't have a shield, and I rock into that light armor. Let's talk about that a little bit just to kind of set the context. If you're in light, you actually dodge with a quick roll. This is a really great way of getting out of harm's way. It's going to consume 50 stamina, but you're going to deal 20% bonus damage and actually have 30% bonus healing. Now, being that I'm going to rock a shield and I'm going to walk you through building a heavy setup, note that that's going to decrease my healing ability, but it's going to increase the amount of damage that I ultimately can take. And that's what I want to set you up with. And my assumption in my mind right now is that you're kind of trying to play this game solo, but obviously if you're playing with friends, you're going to be able to change any and all this to kind of fit you and your group's playstyle. Now, obviously right now I'm in medium. My goal is to kind of work my way into kind of a heavy set. You can look at any of the weapons that they have, and when it compares it to yourself, you can see these gauntlets are heavy. I'm going to go ahead and equip those just to continue to push myself up and up and up. Now, what I'm looking for here is that armor rating and physical rating. So here's another set of gloves, both marked as heavy. This has better armor and physical rating, same level of strengths, and additional perks because it's rated as an epic. I think that's more important that I equip that, and thus that's how I'm going to kind of structure this. So you can see here, Profane Helmet of the Century. I'm going to go ahead and equip that. That's going to now push me into a heavy load. I can still continue to go down the list to find better and better elemental ratings and gear. And so what you would like to do is kind of scroll through, see what ultimately is making the most sense. That armor rating, that physical rating, the stats, especially as you level, are important, but not so much because you can continue to respec. And let me go ahead and show you how that's done. I'm going to go and equip these boots. And being that this puts me into a heavy category, I think for for the purpose of this video, that's going to be more than important enough. Now, I'm going to zoom out and give myself a little bit. Now, if I dodge, you can see here, I kind of do a little bit of a slide dodge, less of a jump. Obviously, it continues to consume plenty of stamina as well. So you can find that dodging, especially in a heavy build, it might be just more advantageous to block. Now, at the time of this filming, I know for a fact that they're working on improving the block and the heavy build meta within the game itself. So you might be watching this in the future, and there might be a thing or two I don't cover. So be sure to check the channel page if there's any updated videos on this. But like I said, I respect, so that way I had a lot of options to build out my setup. Now, focus is going to have the healing capacity. You can see here within the game, what am I using? So strength and dexterity are going to automatically benefit the sword. Focus is going to benefit the life staff. But here's where things kind of get fun. You can get various different gems to slot into the weapons that will help change up how they empower the weapon. So if you wanted to go with a real focus build, you can actually slot a weapon into your sword that's going to have it scale off of focus. So you have a lot of flexibility. And note that we're not going to go into full details with this video specifically. Stay tuned for more like directed build guides on the channel itself. But that gives me the ability to have plenty of points to be able to slot into strength and to be able to slot into constitution. This is going to be my life if I go and just fill this up. Let me just put that at 100. And ultimately, I would like to be able to get into these categories of 300, because as you level and as you kind of build out your gear, that's what you're going to want to look for. Now, if you look at what you get and when you hit these milestones, it's pretty substantial. So like strength, regen faster when performing light and heavy attacks with a melee weapon. Like that's great. Also from a gathering perspective, light and heavy attacks with melee weapons gains grit, 25% to mine an ore with a single swing. So having these different kind of perks are going to benefit you in the long run. So be sure that, especially if you're starting to get close on a, just on a level, that you go ahead and make sure you hit that level. Because if you don't hit, if you're at, 199, you're not going to get the 200 perk requirement, so to speak. So just kind of play around with that. Being that right now my gear is heavily, in this case, giving me focus stats, I can go ahead and increase my overall life. Right now at, at level cap, that gives me over 10,000 max health. Again, I'm thinking of survivability. What's also beautiful about the life staff and the sword and shield range, like I can go ahead and self-target for self-heals. I can also put a nice little ground on me, and then I can go right into kind of defensive mode. So I'm healing and I'm defending. But the beautiful thing is, like, if I wanted to pull from a distance, I have the ability to do a ranged attack with the life staff, thus kind of completing the idea of sword and shield and ranged. Now, here's where things get a lot of fun. So outside of the gear, hopefully you understand how the gear and the weighting works itself and how that impacts your dodging. Clearly, I would want to, if I was going to put this into real perspective, would want to look at these, accessories that I have in terms of the stats that I'm filling myself with, and thus I would kind of play around with ultimately what the stats are to kind of get that perfect setup. But that's not the goal of this video. It's to give you options, to kind of hopefully give you some insight as to what you should be focusing in on. Again, survivability, damage is going to be important because you can obviously kill things faster. But if you're getting murdered all the time, that's one of the things that I keep getting asked. Now, I'm actually going to show you a sword and shield. Let's talk about Hatchet. Here's where things get fun and interesting. In the Hatchet weapon mastery tree, you have a throwing skill tree. What this actually then would offer you, it would offer you the ability to have the ability to block, use that sword and shield, but with a hatchet at a range to be able to pull things close, from far, while at the same time maintaining that physicality, be able to breathe the berserk and have all the benefits of it. If you guys haven't seen Berserk, well, I guess might as well just tell you about it, right? I like Berserk. I like it a lot. Enters the Berserk mode that increases all attack damage by 20% for 12 seconds. Cooldown for this ability will not start until the mode ends. You can also taunt gem compatible this, so if you're trying to go also with kind of a tanky build, having Berserk is a really decent option. And then you can enhance it, making your movement speed faster. You can also gain a portion of your health back every 4 seconds, up to 30% of your maximum health with Berserk. You can remove all stuns, slows, and roots in Berserk mode. And you also have uninterruptible Berserk. While Berserk is active, your attacks are uninterruptible and you can't be staggered. So having this just in and of itself as a skill to weave in with what I've got as Infected Throw and Rending Throw gives me a lot of flexibility and allows me to, again, have both kind of the benefit of both worlds, sword and shield and the hatchet itself. But this gets, you know, even more fun when all of a sudden you start to realize, well, again, whether I wanted to stick, let's say I wanted to swap out with a great hammer, and let's say, yeah, you can block, you can do some damage. You could look at a musket. You could actually go around and play with that. And now all of a sudden, and one of the things I would like to point out is that you do not need ammo to equip. You'll have unlimited ammo at all times. If you wanted to equip some ammo, it would actually act as a damage multiplier. In this case, a 5% boost to damage if you wanted to and choose to use it. But if you wanted to run around and just go hunting and then be able to smack some things down with your hammer. Ooh, herbs. Sorry, I cannot resist the herbs, especially for the perk that gets me in the movement speed. It gives me the ability to move, gives me the ability to fire, and I have, again, unlimited ammo. Let's see if we can find something to hunt here. Should be pretty straightforward, pretty simple as we barrel our way through Ebonscale Reach. And now, having found a target, we're able to continue to have that experience. So, again, this is just more free-flowing. This is something, question that continue gets brought up to me about essentially kind of how I spec my builds. For leveling, I really focus in on trying to increase my survivability. Then now that I'm at endgame, I'm really leaning into kind of the healer role, which I really am enjoying overall. And that obviously has different implications and different playstyles overall for how I choose to play and engage with that. So guys, I hope you got something beautiful from this video. I really appreciate you hanging out with it. Different, a little bit different, a little bit more, like I said, not specific on any one build, but the ability to sit down and say, you know what, I'm really looking to try and do something a little bit different. So I'm going to keep leveling up my Void Gauntlet. I think this is probably the best one I have for now as I chase even better gear itself. Guys, if you feel like this video earns it, like, favorite, subscribe, and share. Sound off in the comments below if you have any tips to increase your survivability as you jump into the game or return to the game. In the comments, I look forward to reading those. And yeah, I wish you guys all the best. Thanks to you so much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you in my next video. But until then, take care.
Yeah. It's time to chill out on the couch and read some comments. That's right. You know me when it comes to Destiny. I'm off with a clan, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Oh yeah.